AI is just software. That's the way that I view it. It's a tool. It's an amazing tool, and that's how I explained it originally to our team to ensure that everyone understands that this is not going to replace you. It's like putting an exoskeleton, getting really geeky here, putting an exoskeleton on you to be able to run faster and do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do.
Here we go, another day, another systems and AI implementation case study. Today I'm joined by Chris Hunter. He's from roofingsites.com. They're a marketing company that helps support roofing companies. I love it when it says what it does on the tin.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
long-time systemology supporter and has recently been re-engineering some of his internal processes and systems and workflows to be able to leverage AI. And that's really what I want to talk about today. I want to understand his thinking, how he did it, the steps he went through, and more importantly, how you can do the same. So maybe first things first, just like to welcome you to the call, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. It's really cool.
Yeah, nice. Well, maybe as a place to start, I'd love to know how long it took you from seeing what AI can do, and I don't know if it was the Chat GPT moment for you, to go from idea to execution. Was it something that was like immediately obvious to you, or did you sit on it a bit?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We first started using AI. The first time I kind of came across it was I had come across Jarvis, right? Was the name of
Mm,
the tool way back in the day, and that was because it helped us with content, right? And it helped us be able to create really good content, much better than sometimes than what our writers was creating, you know and it helped us create all sorts of things like email campaigns and all those types of things. I think that they had to rebrand it at one point from Jarvis to Jasper, I
yep.
think, but which is what it's known. I think still right now we don't use Jasper anymore, but we did. We were heavy users of that for a while. Um, Chat GPT, got released. What was that now? 2, 3 years ago, something
I
like
know
that.
2 years ago
You
seems
know, it
ridiculous
seems
that
like forever.
yeah.
But when it was released, that kinda hit our radar, and we started playing around with it, and when I say we, me and my, team, and we do a lot of content for our clients. We have to we're mainly search engine optimization based, and so that revolves a lot around content. And we do some social media posts and some other things, but we started playing around with ChatGPT and we were like, okay, well, this is kind of cool. And then when they started releasing some of the more advanced types things, that's when we really started leaning more heavily into ChatGPT specifically. Okay.
Mm,
Um, when they released custom GPTs, that really made me sit up and go, huh, what can we do here? How can
yeah,
we and so basically, I started with one, custom GPT that I created specifically for the blog articles, right? And creating blog articles that were lengthy in nature, that weren't robotic sounding, was kind of the goal. And so I created it, let my team have it, and they loved it,
yeah,
and we're started using it quite a bit. Then I started listening to them and, in our level 10 meetings, and that's EOS type speak there, right? But in our meetings, in our weekly meetings, I started listening. Okay, well, what else can we create, right? What else can we
yeah,
do with this? And what other problems can we solve? And so we started doing that. And next thing I knew, I'd creating, you know, I just looked at my account, right before this. I've got 18 custom GPTs that we've created, for specific tasks to solve a specific problem. Anything from press releases to social media posts to actual assistants that are customized specifically for us. Like, I was telling you
yeah,
earlier that um, I I have a custom GPT that I've created as a personal assistant for myself, so it's trained on me, it's trained on my processes, it's trained on my book, right? It's trained
yeah,
on this right here, 336 pages of my book here, and it knows a lot about me, my team, and so forth. And so I give it specific. instructions. I'm like, "Hey, this is my task list, for the
Yeah.
week. Who should I delegate this to?" What
Yeah.
tasks can I delegate off? And it knows the Colby scores for each of my team. So it knows who's really good at what kind of a thing. So that's kind of cool. It's really geeky, but that's what
Yeah.
I'm into, and I like, kind of digging into specific tasks that I can delegate or, offload onto my team kind of a thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, first step there that someone listening to this should take is having a look at what tools they're currently using
Um,
that are starting to have AI creep into them and then start to make use of that. Or maybe even seek out some specialized tools. You think of something like Jasper, and it was tapping into AI back before the
mhm,
ChatGPT moment, and it was effectively putting a wrapper over the top of AI, creating
mhm.
prompts where you wouldn't necessarily know. They figured
Right.
out their recipes that were going on. You'd populate the different fields, and then it would
Yeah.
give you the result by tapping into the AI, which was quite magical before
Yeah.
people kind of really saw what was going on. And now you kind
Right.
of migrated and thought, well, we might as well go straight to the source here, and then you can start to
Yeah.
control your own recipes, control your own training, and then start
Mhm.
to build it out for different use cases. So I know you're a bit of a systems thinker. So you
Yeah.
think in terms of the different processes that are going on in your organization. How did you uh, start to think about prioritizing, or where did you start? What were some of the first processes that you kind of thought, oh, that's an obvious move?
Yeah. So that's a good question. The biggest thing, honestly, is what's driving us most nuts,
Yeah,
and when we first, so we're EOS organization, and we set up in 2018 with EOS. And when we mapped out the whole process and what it's going to look like in 5, 10 years on where we're going, we were going to have like 50 writers and editors, and I just, as we did that and hit our big, hairy, audacious goal, I just started thinking, how in the world are we going to manage 50 people? Right. At the time, I think we had four, on the team,
yeah,
and maybe five actually, because we had four on the leadership team. We were very leadership heavy. So, um, anyways, the biggest thing with me on any kind of system has been what's driving us most nuts. What do I
yeah,
need to offload of me specifically? What do I need to offload of my project manager? What do I need to offload? And think of those things in those kinds of terms. And really, that's according to your book and what I read in your book too. So, yeah,
yeah. It's definitely the first step in moving to AI is getting very clear on what the core processes are, how
mhm,
you're currently doing what you're doing, because that ends
mhm,
up becoming the programming for the machines anyway. And then you look
right,
at re-engineering and taking off certain chunks and say, oh, okay, well, that whole step
yeah,
now we can replace it with a prompt and go
yeah,
draft it up over here using our custom GPT. And then the writer or whomever can step in and do the polish. And, we just saved 80% of that team member's time. So I
right,
think that idea of identifying the processes and what's going on, and then thinking about where the pain is, and then
yeah,
thinking, well, let's go to work on that and see how AI can
mhm,
help you sort of go faster, cheaper, better. I know you touched on earlier. I'd love to dig into a little bit more
yeah,
with an actual use case. Let's say the blog articles that you
mhm,
mentioned earlier. So, being a marketing company for roofing companies, one of the services that you offer is to provide them with blogs that can help with their search
yeah,
engine optimization. So that's obviously a big chunk of what it is that you do. Is that something like when you went through the systemology process and thinking about systems, had you actually documented out a process that the team
oh
was
yeah.
following pre
Mhm.
applying AI?
100%. Yeah. So, and kind of backtracking, we've been in business since 2003, right?
Yeah.
When we first started implementing search engine optimization services for our clients in around 2005. So, I mean, we've been doing it a really, really long time. And I'd like to say, yeah, we do have it systemized. And
Mm.
honestly, the content piece of our organization is the most systemized because it's the one that we've been doing the longest.
Yep.
So we had SOPs, we had tasks, we had checklists, we had all of these things lined out. Everyone was trained on exactly what to do for those things. So implementing it in with AI was just simply, okay, well, what task can I pull out, you know? And the writing tasks seemed to be the most logical piece
Yeah.
to start with. Um, the other tasks, I mean, we didn't really talk about this yet, but like just coming up with titles, right?
Yeah.
My editor is the one who comes up with titles, and that was taking up like 80% of her time every single month. And so we
Yeah.
systemized that using AI to come up with kind of a and what's now known as this topical authority method of, finding out all of these really great titles that we could use to start with for the articles. So
Yeah.
um it's just been one piece at a time. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you think about, let's say specifically with the blog writing, you've got
Mhm.
a GPT that is trained for that particular task, or do you
Yeah.
have multiple, like you've got a headline
Mhm.
GPT, you've got a body GPT, or is it just one GPT?
So I have a friend that helped me with this, honestly. His name is Jonathan Mast. Super, super smart guy. He's in the same mastermind group that I'm in, and every time we meet up like 3 times a year in person and quite a bit more online. Um, he's super deep into AI. He's created a whole AI agency that does nothing but content for other agencies, kind of a thing, right? So he helped me kind of with that prompt of how to create that custom GPT to create the article
Yeah.
assistant itself. I then took that assistant, well, that sorry, that I'm using the wrong terminology, the custom GPT and created in the OpenAI backend,
Mhm.
right, in the API area an assistant, right? And now my programmers tied that in with our software that we use to manage our entire business that we've created over the past
Yeah.
10 years now to to help with that entire process. So it's literally almost like Jasper inside of our
Your
own
so yeah.
software, right?
Yeah.
And it's able to, generate the articles, generate the titles, well, titles first, then the article, and then it we have editors and they go through and edit it, but I think we're down to like 5 minutes per article, right? That we're
Yeah.
editing. So it's this time savings is just massive, just absolutely massive.
How
And
long would an article pre-AI take you?
So so we paid our writer per article,
Yeah.
it was like, every single article that she wrote, and she's been with us like 15 years. Um, and by the way, we trained the AI on all of her articles that she's written over the past 15 years. So there was like 15,000 articles or something ridiculous like that that she had written. Um, but that was a per article thing that she was,
Mm.
charging us. Our editor, on the other hand, right, was spending probably an hour to 2 hours editing,
Yep.
and I think that's just because of her process of what she does, on in making sure that the facts are checked, that, what we're publishing is actually factual, that it reads correct. So now going from maybe a 10-minute per article process,
Yeah.
and I've elevated our writer now to, content manager is what we're calling her, right? And so last time I checked, it was about 10 minutes per article that they're spending on those things. So
Yeah.
massive, massive difference.
Oh, hey, I know you're tuned in right now, so I'll keep this super quick, but you like awesome YouTube videos, don't you? Well, there's not really that many YouTube channels that create great content about how to systemize your small business. So I want to make sure that you catch every video that I publish. So if you haven't already, firstly, give this video the thumbs up and then go ahead and subscribe to my channel. You can even hit the bell notification to make sure that you're the first to know when I publish anything. So go ahead, do it right now. I'll wait a sec, and then I'll transfer you back to the video. Yeah. And that's going for a couple of hours, and then if we
And I
multiply
think
or an hour,
yeah, yeah,
so we're kind of talking, 1/6 the time or something like that, and
mhm,
then multiply that out across all of the articles that you're writing,
yeah,
and then that pretty much drops
it's massive.
straight to the bottom
Yeah,
line.
absolutely. And more importantly, it allows us to scale because that was the one piece as we were looking to scale that is not scalable in agencies, right? And until AI came out, it's not really available. I mean, it
Yeah,
just you just have to hire more writers, train them, and manage them. And the management piece is the hardest of them
yeah,
all. But and now it costs us literally dollars per article. Maybe less than that. Honestly, I haven't looked at the cost
yeah,
savings. I do know that it costs us about in the open AI and about 12 to 15 cents per article, right?
yeah.
When you're paying the API fees. So
And then prior, like, it's probably might be hard, even if you kind of ballpark it, writing
mhm.
it before and with the editor, do you have a ballpark how much an article was costing you?
Yeah, so, it was costing us about $50 per article, roughly,
Yeah,
around that range, and then we would charge $150, per
yeah.
article. Um,
And then cost now, like, you probably
Negligible. I mean,
yeah,
it's ridiculously low,
yeah,
and those 2 people, the editor and the content manager, right,
yep,
can I mean, we can easily handle 1,000 clients, I think, with those 2 people.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, there's a couple of things you mentioned there, and I think it's important to pull them out the steps. Like, you got very clear on the process, like,
Mhm,
systemology, thinking critical client flow, departments, core
mhm,
process, great. Now, where's the pain? Okay, well, let's go in on those and what are high volume, high frequency, where savings can be gained. Okay, well, let's
mhm,
re-engineer that and then start off at the moment. When you start off, it's a custom GPT and you're manually doing it and loading it in. And then you've gone the step beyond that, which is then,
mhm.
well, now let's have a custom coded solution on our different prompts that's tailored specifically for our use case that now
Yeah,
becomes part of your 11 herbs and secret spices. It's the special
mhm,
tool. It's something that's proprietary to you guys and now becomes that real competitive advantage. So I think that
yeah,
that's key. And then you just multiply this out across all of the different tasks and functions and
mhm,
going on in your business. And then
yeah,
those efficiency gains just stack and it
absolutely.
compounds.
Yeah,
And then you have significant impact. So, one question you mentioned about with the writers, and you've got the same writer that's been with you for, um, uh, did we say about 15 years?
15
Yeah.
years,
So,
yeah, yeah.
um, how has the team gone embracing AI? Like, is this something that they were hesitant about? Were they wary or that they
Yeah.
were worried that this is going to take their jobs? I'd love some insight on that.
Yeah, so and that was never our intention with AI. It was never to replace anybody. It was to use it as a tool to make that person way more efficient, right?
Yeah.
And by a multiplier of I don't know, probably 50 to 100, right? Kind of efficiency, which is really just amazing when you get down and think about it. But AI is just software. I mean, that's all it is. That's the way that I view it. It's a tool. The way that I explain it to my roofers is that it's like the air hammer is right for putting shingles on a roof versus a regular hammer, a 16-ounce hammer. Um, but it's it's an amazing tool, and that's I think how we should all view it, and that's how I explained it originally to our team to ensure that everyone understands that this is not gonna replace you. This is to augment you. This is to, it's like putting an exoskeleton, getting really geeky here, putting an exoskeleton on you, right? To be able to run faster and do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do. Um, and that's the way that I view it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great way to explain it through to the team, and it makes them stronger and more valuable. And I actually think
Yeah,
team members that embrace AI will outperform those that don't tenfold. So
100%.
you want to get on board this train,
Yeah.
and that will help you become more valuable because I think the AI role, the systems and
Mhm.
AI champion is such a critical role
Yeah.
for someone to understand process, understand how to re-engineer and introduce AI.
Mhm.
The savings and the benefit to the business are so significant. And we've just taken one
Yeah.
little piece,
Yeah.
one little example, but
Yeah.
think about every role, every department. There are these wins just
Mhm.
waiting to be taken advantage of. In the tail end, yeah, I don't know if there's any additional things maybe other use cases. I know we touched on a couple. You talked about using an assistant or training up
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
assistant GPT for yourself, and that helps you to
Yeah.
delegate out tasks because you've trained it
Yeah.
on Colby scores and uh, understanding your team. Are there any other things where you're just like, oh, that's been a real winner for us?
So lately, I sit in the sales seat, right, in my organization. That's my last major seat to give up, I think, before I elevate completely to the visionary seat. But I've honestly been using it to evaluate my strategy sessions and discovery calls that I'm having with clients, right? Um, and everything is recorded, so it's easier. And I use Read AI, of course, AI tool. I use Read AI to record all of my meetings with clients or potential clients. And I take that transcript of that down, download that transcript, feed it into my assistant, right, that I've trained to act as Jeremy Minor is who I'm using lately, right, for sales coaching, and I tell it critique this. What should I have asked? What should I, um, how should I presented this? What should I say next time? What are my follow ups? What should my next follow ups be? It's giving some really insightful information and helping my entire sales process there. So,
Yeah,
and additionally, helping my assistant. Right, I've got a sales assistant that is doing the discovery call. So I'm helping. It's helping me to help coach her way better because I'm not trained, quote unquote, in sales. Right, even though
yep,
I'm like that's my role. Um, I view myself as more of the back end kind of guy, but I've been thrust into that area because who else is going to do it, right?
yeah,
And so it's been really helpful to me to be able to coach my assistant and hopefully to be able to create SOPs based off of all of these trainings, right? For my next replacement, which is going to be a closer, a
yeah.
type person. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. The more that we talk about AI and the direction we're headed, the more that I realize this how critical process is. It's
Yeah.
really about identifying those critical processes. And then, as I
Hmm.
say, the systems that you document today will become the programming of the machines tomorrow. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious if you see yourself as a systems person or if it's something that, you know, you've just come to realize how critical it is in business.
Yeah. I think that the longer that I've been in business, the more that I've learned that businesses are simply a collection of systems, right?
Yeah,
And so the more systemized that you are with every bit and piece of your business, the better that the business overall is going to function, right? It's easier to train people when there are systems in place already before you bring them on. And so I'm not perfect by any means. If you talk to my business partner, he is way more systemized than I am, and he always constantly asks me, "Why did you do that? That doesn't make any sense. You should have done it the systemized way." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Okay." So I'm
yeah,
not perfect by any means on being completely systemized, but I do realize, and I've got friends in that mastermind group that I'm in that are at a way different level than what I am, like
yeah,
10x the level that I am, and the more that I talk with them, the more that I realize how systemized their business is, and to
Yeah.
be able to ask them, "Hey, how did you get there? How did you do that?" You know, and to be able to get those answers of, "Hey, let me give you the SOPs. This is what we did. These are the systems that we used." So,
Yeah. Was that
it's pretty
the
cool.
same mastermind where you first came across systemology?
Yes, I'm pretty sure, right, that this book was handed out at one of our intensives,
Yeah.
and I probably should have inscribed it in there of where I got that, right? But I'm in a mastermind group called Seven Figure Agency with Josh Nelson.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things that I've been looking for, honestly, for the past 20 years of being an agency owner, right?
Yeah.
And I came across it in 2020, I think, sometime in 2020, when I came across Josh Nelson's book and I read it, and where he talked about how to become a seven-figure agency. And agencies are super hard to scale. Is super hard to
Yeah.
scale. Any service business is, but agencies in particular are super hard to scale. And he had the roadmap for that. And so I read the book, started drinking the Kool-Aid, and joined the mastermind group. I've been a mastermind group member for the past 4 plus years, I think. I think I just hit my
Yeah.
my birthday or anniversary, with them. Um, and just an amazing group of individuals that I'm with there. We're going in less than a month to our next intensive in Miami. So yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, the systemology message tends to resonate so well with agency owners, and I think it's
Mhm.
because, I mean, I used to run an agency. We had Melbourne SEO
Yeah.
Services that I ran
Yeah.
for 13 years. So the whole idea of systemology was birthed around that and the
Yeah.
struggles and the frustrations of scaling
Yeah.
agencies. I get it, and I've been
It's
there.
hard.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's no surprise that yeah, our message sort of reaches the agency world. But might leave it there. Look, I'll pop a link through to your site, roofingsites.com, for people to check out. As I said, I just appreciate you hopping on and sharing some key insights and strategies on how you're leveraging AI. Hopefully, it's inspired other business owners to do the same.
Thanks so much for having me on, David.